Welcome to Starwatch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. In a world where fame often demands silence, a few voices dared to whisper the truth. When the mysterious truth files exploded across the internet, it wasn't the work of hackers or journalists. It was a coalition of stars who decided that silence was no longer an option. And this time, their mission wasn't about fame, but freedom. It began not with noise, but with silence. A silence so heavy it seemed to echo through the corridors of the entertainment world. For weeks, rumors had lingered, questions unanswered, and pain buried beneath glossy magazine covers and rehearsed smiles. Then, one night, an encrypted message appeared in several inboxes. It contained no attachments, no explanations, just 4 words that would ignite everything. For him, for truth. Those words spread quietly, like sparks finding dry wood. Each of them, actors, singers, creators, paused when they saw the message. Some deleted it instantly, fearing surveillance. Others stared at it for hours, feeling something stir inside them. Among those who chose to answer were names the public knew well: Wang Yibo, Xiao Zhan, Zhao Lucy, Tan Songyun, Shen Yue, Dylan Wang, and Su Kai. They had lived under the same spotlight, played different roles, but shared one unspoken bond. They all knew Menglong. To the world, he was just another celebrity gone too soon. To them, he was a friend whose story had been rewritten by others. What followed wasn't rebellion. It was awakening. One by one, they began tracing fragments of memory. Old messages, unedited photos, lost call logs, half-finished drafts he had never sent. Each piece seemed harmless until they were placed side by side. That was when the pattern appeared. Inconsistencies in the timeline, names that repeated where they shouldn't, a series of quiet deletions from official servers. It was as if someone had been editing not just data, but reality itself. They met in quiet corners, dim cafes, rehearsal rooms long after midnight. Conversations whispered behind closed doors turned into missions coded in silence. No one dared to speak on the phone. No one used real names online. And yet, within the fear, there was a strange sense of purpose. The truth isn't dead, someone whispered during one of those meetings. It's only waiting for the right voice. In that moment, their fear turned into conviction. What began as grief became a promise that Menglong's story would not fade into silence. It was no longer just about clearing a friend's name. It was about proving that even in a world built on illusions, truth still has a pulse. And now it was time for that pulse to be heard. They began to gather quietly, not in conference rooms or luxurious penthouses, but in places where no one would expect the presence of fame. A forgotten cafe on the edge of the city. A small rehearsal studio that still smelled of dust and old wood. A rooftop where the noise of the streets below could drown out any word spoken. In those unremarkable spaces, something extraordinary was forming. A circle of people bound not by contracts or careers, but by conscience. At first, the meetings were awkward. These were public figures trained to speak through scripts, to hide pain behind poise. But now, every sentence was weighed with risk. Phones were wrapped in foil or left behind altogether. They communicated through handwritten notes, each burned after reading. They had become, in their own strange way, fugitives of truth. It was Shen Yue who first broke the tension. "If we wait for permission," she said softly, "then no one will ever hear him again." The room fell silent. Wang Yibo leaned forward, his face pale under the flickering light. Xiao Zhan nodded, wordless but resolute. That was the moment the alliance truly began. Not through speeches or oaths, but through shared resolve. They started to assign roles. Dylan, meticulous and calm, handled the encrypted channels. Tan Songyun used her quiet charm to reach out to stylists, editors, and assistants who might still hold fragments of information. Zhao Lucy combed through old production schedules, searching for names that had disappeared from the records. Su Kai, always the strategist, began to map timelines, marking where facts ended and fiction began. The air was thick with fear, but also with an energy none of them had felt before. The kind that comes when people decide they have nothing left to lose except their silence. They no longer cared about headlines or endorsements. Each meeting left them a little more exposed, but also a little more certain. One night, as they prepared to leave, Xiaozhan looked back at the group and said, "They control the cameras, but we still control what's real." For a long moment no one spoke. The city lights shimmered below, and above them the night stretched wide and heavy, as if listening. It was then they understood. This was not just a gathering. It was a beginning, the quiet birth of something larger than any fame they had ever known, something that could no longer be undone. The plan did not emerge in a burst of inspiration but through sleepless nights, long silences, and the quiet weight of responsibility. Each of them knew that one wrong move could destroy everything. Their careers, their freedom, and the last chance to reveal the truth about Menglong. They were no longer performers in a story written for them. They were now authors of something far greater, something dangerous. Every detail had to be perfect, every risk calculated, every voice protected. In the dim light of a rehearsal room that had become their unofficial headquarters, Su Kai spread a stack of papers across the floor. "We can't just release it," he said. "They'll erase it before anyone sees." His words hung in the air like smoke. Dylan nodded, his hands trembling slightly as he traced lines between names, connecting servers across continents. "Then we don't release it once," he replied. "We release it everywhere, all at once." It was an audacious idea, a multi-layered upload scattered across encrypted servers in Europe, Asia, and North America. Each file would mirror the others. Even if one was taken down, another would appear seconds later. It would be unstoppable, a digital echo that could never be silenced. They worked for weeks perfecting the structure, rehearsing every possibility as if it were a scene that could not fail. But the plan demanded more than technical precision. It required sacrifice. Someone had to disappear, to protect the chain, to mislead those who might be watching. It was Zhao Lucy who first volunteered, her voice steady though her hands trembled. "If one of us must vanish," she said, "then let it be me." The others protested, but they all knew she meant it. Eventually, the decision fell to Dylan, the most experienced with encryption. One morning, without warning, his social media accounts vanished, his studio number disconnected. His absence became part of the illusion. By the time the blueprint was complete, they were no longer just artists, they were architects of truth. Exhausted, sleepless, they stared at the code that would soon carry Menglong's story across the world. In that fragile moment before dawn, Xiaozhan whispered, "Once we start this, there's no turning back." Wang Yibo answered quietly, "That's how we'll know it's real." The plan was no longer just about evidence. It was about reclaiming a voice that had been stolen, proving that even under watchful eyes, courage can still find a way to speak. At noon, on a silent day in October, the truth files went live. It wasn't just a leak. It was a message written in courage. Screens lit up worldwide, hashtags surged, and for once, the truth had a heartbeat. But soon came the retaliation. Channels vanished, dramas were cancelled, and fan pages went dark. Yet, something unexpected happened. Fans became the new keepers of truth. They mirrored every post, every screenshot, every word. It was no longer about celebrities, it was about everyone who believed. Weeks later, international reporters confirmed what the files suggested, that Menglong's story had been altered, his truth edited like a script. But because of those who refused to stay silent, his name became a symbol. Across Asia, people lit candles under the message. They tried to bury his story, but they planted a revolution. This was never about one man's tragedy. It was about how far people are willing to go when truth is at stake. No force, no censorship, no silence can erase something born from sincerity. And that's what this story teaches us, that even in the darkest systems, light finds a way through human hearts. If the story moved you, don't let it fade. Share it, talk about it, and keep the conversation alive. Because truth isn't just what we see, it's what we choose to protect. Thank you for watching Starwatch now. If you believe that truth and compassion deserve a voice, subscribe, like, and stay with us because together we'll keep the light shining where silence once ruled. Glowing star.